Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing the NVMe swap in the Xbox Ally X, and this is a 2280 4TB drive from Lexar. You can see that I have this device right here. This is a cloning device, and so it's an offline cloning device, meaning that I don't have to have some sort of software or anything and be booted in to just like clone the actual drive. I can just pull the actual drive out now without even turning on the device first, but we are going to turn it on because we need to make sure that this thing powers before we swap out the drive. But before actually initializing it and doing the setup, this is the easiest way to just do it. You just pop it in there, it clones right over. So you see I have a T and an S. It does actually say the words, but I just wrote it in Sharpie because it makes it a little bit easier. And you can see on the inside here, there's an S. The S means source and the T means target. So this is the target device. And then of course the source is inside here. So you'll also notice that I have the power cord plugged in, and you need that in order to power it on for the first time. So when you get it fresh out of the box, it's not going to turn on when you press that power, and that's just so it doesn't trigger in transit. So now that we know that it powers on, we're good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off and then swap the drive. To get it open, I'm gonna flip this over, and you see that I have these little foam chunks, and I don't know if you have any packing material that you can use to kind of save a couple of these if you plan on ever opening a device again. But the reason I have that is actually to protect the joysticks so that when I lay it flat on here, it's not pressing down on the joystick. So if you have something else you can use that's gentle on the screen, of course I have a screen protector on here. That's an anti-glare one. That's why you don't see any reflections, but it'll help keep it a lot more secure for the joysticks without putting that pressure on the device. All right, now on the back, you can see that there's a screw here, a screw here, a screw here, one here, and then there's 3 at the bottom here. So we are gonna have to unscrew all of those to take this apart. And of course, if you've got, an iFixit kit or some sort of screwdriver kit, you'll wanna make sure that you have the right bit in there. Right now, I am using a number 1. And so we'll see if that's gonna be the right fit. And it feels like it is. So if it's slipping at all, you might not have the right size. So just make sure you check that. Okay, it looks like that one might have a lock on the back because I can feel it kind of making a unique noise that it usually does if there's some sort of lock at the very back. You can do a little shake here too to see if you can get anything loose that might not have come out. I don't love prying when there's still screws in there, but sometimes you just got to do it. So you can see that just from unscrewing it, there's a little gap already. So if you've got a spudger like this, this is really handy, and you can just use that to lightly kind of pry through some of these clips. And I'm doing this side, of course, first because I want to try to catch those screws that are stuck. And of course, because, this is the side that lifted up. So if you look at any of the other sides, they're still flush. All right. So keep going along the edge. And then you see how I kind of just put a little bit of pressure on the edge here while I was prying it with the spudger. And so that allowed this side to release. And then now that that's released, I can kind of just like lightly go in there, just a little twist and a little bit of a pull at the same time, but very gentle. You don't want to go too hard on this. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the other side. This side's lifted a little bit and we'll work our way through because I haven't been in here before or seen anyone else take this apart. So we're just gonna learn as we go on this one. Okay. This side, pry that up a little bit, and then try not to hit the power button at all because that would not be great. It's not like the worst thing, but then you'll have to go through the process of shutting it down again. Okay. Just want to get a feel where all the rest of the clips are. So another one went over here. Can see this is that little edge that won't let the screw come out, so that's okay. You can see that it's on there. It's supposed to be like that. This one's still grabbing right there. Got it out. And again, just gently prying it up. I want to make sure nothing snags along the way. I will say it's not as easy as the regular Ally X, or the regular Ally for that matter. I can feel that it wants to grab in here. So watch through this full thing before you totally commit past this point, because I just want to make sure that nobody breaks anything. We're doing this for the first time. There we go. Okay, so that was a little scary. Whew. Sweating a little bit. So I'm gonna go back to this side now. Try not to hit that power button. And there we go. I just gave it a little twist out because I can see, that it's gonna be the same pattern as how that other side was. Okay, line up those squares. Then I can flip this over. Now, this is something you wanna be very careful of, is there's that little ribbon on the inside that's attached, and it's attached right to the back of here. So in order to take that off, I've got these tweezers. They're meant for circuit boards, and this little piece of tape here, I'm just gonna lift that up just so you can see what I'm talking about. There's a little piece of tape there. So I'm just gonna lift that little edge over and then pull it up, and then there's a little clip at the bottom here, so I just unhooked it, and then now I can pull this ribbon cable out gently. So now we've released this back, and this is what it looks like on the inside. All right, now the battery cable is there. If you want to unplug it, you just need to kind of unclip this and then pull it out. I'm gonna go without undoing the battery. I mean, as long as you don't push the power button and it's completely off, it's okay, but you should unplug it. It's the better way to do it, is to unplug the battery. But if you wanna be a little risky, you can just go for it. All right, so this is the screw for the NVMe. I'm gonna just slot that to the side and pull this out. So on here, there's just some tape, and I'm just gonna pull this up. So it's kind of like a mini heatsink, but it looks like there is room for an actual heatsink. So this is the one that was on there. It's just like a little slip on there for the Samsung SSD that's in this device. So it's interesting that it's a Samsung. I didn't know that that was a Samsung inside here, but now we do. So this is what I'm gonna plug into the source spot, and then I'm gonna run this offline cloner. It's gonna clone the drive, then I'll be able to put the 4 terabyte back in, and then we can piece this back together. But at least now you get a good idea of how it opens and what you can expect. Now, when we're also looking at this, it looks like there is a lot of space there. So I will attempt to put a heatsink on this when we put it back in. So the offline drive, it took about 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes to do. Not too bad, depending on how big the drive is. It can take a little longer, a little less, but you can see that it is all complete. So I can go ahead and turn this off and take out the drive that I want to use. And then of course I'll put the original drive back into the box that this one came in and tuck it away in my Ally X box just to keep it for safekeeping in case I need it at some point down the road. So I do have a heatsink that I wanted to try. Again, I wasn't prepared to actually be able to use one in here, so I'm just gonna use whatever I have lying around, which is this one. It's just one I picked up off of AliExpress, but I'm sure there's all kinds on Amazon that would work for this. So I'm just gonna press that on here, and then it has 2 little elastic bands. So I'll stick those on here to help keep that secured. And back over on this side. Okay, So now that this is banded, let's see if it fits with the heatsink. So I'm gonna go ahead and slot this back in and see if it interferes with the battery outlet. Okay, so, I mean, it looks like it's okay. It looks like it should still be fine with that in play. So I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can get everything back into place with this heatsink on. So that is pretty cool if we can fit that. I mean, I like the space that they left us on here to be able to have a little bit of room. I know a thin heatsink would definitely work. So let's get this ribbon cable back in and see if everything fits. I'm going to just pull this little sticker back again. And so if you want a little bit of a close-up, there is this little clip here, and that's what we had to unhook to pull this out. We're gonna slot it back in and then clip that back, and then I'll cover it with this sticker. And this right here is a little sensor. This thing, once it is like exposed to light, it'll make it so that it won't turn back on. So you'll see when I plug this in that it's not gonna turn back on, and that's just because it's gone into like protection mode. So as soon as that part is exposed, it's almost like the battery probably won't let it even turn on. I'm not gonna try it right now, but we'll see when I go to plug this back in if that does it or not. And then you'll understand what I just said a little bit better. Okay, this is the tricky part, is trying to get this in an angle to slot it back in. And the actual rodent part should be at the bottom. The blue part should be at the top. Okay, so that is in, it's straight. I'm just gonna put that little flap down to lock it in and then push this adhesive tape back. Okay. Now to put this back in, we had those clips here at the back. I wanna try to clip those in first. So you heard that and heard that. So this side is all good. And then we're gonna work our way back the opposite way of where I started. So you can see the sides are nice and clipped, and this part is clipped in, all good. So at this point, before you put the screws in, let's just check if it turns on. And you can see that it doesn't power. And that's why I said you don't necessarily need to take the battery out, because once you have that back cover off, it knows not to turn on because that little light is exposed that I shared in, or that little sensor, sorry, not that little light, but the little sensor that I shared at the back there, that's what triggers it so that it won't automatically, you know, turn on or cause any issues while you have this back cover off. So now we can put the screws back in. If you want, you can plug it in now and take a look at that before, you know, you put everything back in for screws, but I'm kind of just gonna stagger how I'm putting these on. That top one should already still be in there because of course there's that locking ring. And then don't over tighten. Once you can feel it, just give you a little bit of pressure, just stop. All right, good to go. So I'm gonna plug this in. And then now I should be able to just power that on, and you can see that it powered on. So that is great. The hard drive is installed. It's completely cloned from the original. So now I can keep this in a safe spot in case, you know, you need to do a return and you need to do any warranty. If you want to sell it, now you have it in the original state that it came in. Now, when you get all signed into Windows, or if you're already signed into Windows, you're going to go into the disk manager to create a disk partition, and that's going to allow you to use that space that you've just acquired by upgrading to the 4 terabyte drive. Now, with that, what I would recommend is keeping a smaller portion for your operating system and then keeping a separate section for your games drive. So I would recommend doing, you know, 1 terabyte for the OS, or you could shrink it down to 500 gigs for the OS. on here, and then put the remaining, you know, 3.5 or 3 terabytes. It's not going to be quite that, because once you format these drives, they're not a full 4 terabytes, but whatever's left, just format that to a games drive. So allocate the letter to D, format it NTFS to a games drive. I'll leave a link in the description to a video that kind of references this on another 1X player device so that I don't have to go through the full process again. But if you want to see that, again, it's in the description. So that's how you install the NVMe for the Xbox Ally X. Hopefully this was helpful. If it was, hit that like button, leave me a comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and take care till the next one.